Good afternoon, everyone. I'm talking from beautiful tropical Australia near Cairns, and it's getting really, really hot. And I'm older this year, so I notice it more. Now, this afternoon I'm going to talk about several things. We're going to discuss remote viewing. Now, remote viewing was explored in a big way in the 1970s. It was actually funded by the CIA, and they had two scientists there called Targ and Puthoff, who you can Google. And they were scientists at Stanford University. And they were in the electronic and bioengineering departments. And one of them was heavily involved in the development of the laser. So these were not people who made shit up. All right. Now, also on here, in my exploration this afternoon, there's a document that was requested from the CIA government, the CIA, part of the United States government. Don't mind me for a second. And it was in 1974, the actual experiment was done, and it was first, the document was made public in 1998. And the title is Remote Viewing of Natural Targets by Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff from the Stanford Research Institute. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is, one, so you can look the damn thing up for yourself and see that it's quite real. I'm not making it up. Now, it was only discovered later that the CIA was funding this so they could spy on the Russians. They were seeing if it had any practical value, pardon me, to search for Russian missile silos and assorted things. They had some very, very good results, which you can look up for yourself. Though, of course, the CIA wasn't very keen to talk about it afterwards. Eventually, they pulled the funding because they decided it wasn't reliable enough. They couldn't make it happen every single time. So they put their money more into electronic surveillance and such things. I think that these things, the fact they're even possible, shows that there's something strange about how our world's put together. Not at all like we think it is. Mainly, gravity works usually. I'm not sure it always does. And I think that from when we're little, we're schooled in how to see the world. You know this, probably better than I in some ways. We're told what's real, we're told what isn't real, and things are described to us. This is a cloud made out of water, blah, blah, blah. So our mind is sort of put together in a way. And so often you find people who are quite psychic, they're also quite odd, and have something wrong with them. I've had psychic ability a long time, but it certainly got a big boost when I had a brain injury in 1993, which wasn't all that pleasant, and damaged my memory and all sorts of stuff. But my psychic abilities changed somewhat, and for that I'm very, very grateful. Now, with the remote viewing, I'd like you to try this yourselves. Now, what I have done with it, I had a website where I shared my predictions about the world and all sorts of things. That's Jessica. Are you okay
Sorry,
over there,
people.
Jessica? Oh,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. Smoking does that. Don't smoke. Now, with my remote viewing, what I tried to do was to replicate Targ and Puthoff. I searched for Russian missile silos. Our subconscious will take us to things that interest us. I'm very interested in secret military things, and I always have been for various reasons, which I won't discuss here. And so I did that. But more recently, I looked for North Korean missile silos several years ago. And so what I would do, I'd get a map out and get a general feeling of it. And one area would sort of stand out, it would feel strange. So I get Google Earth and I try and get the area narrower and narrower until I could find somewhere where when I touched it, I got a mental image. I got a very strong feeling this was the place. So I put the coordinates down like you do. But the first time I did this, and it was quite successful, was back in 2011, I think. And it started with a dream I had. And in the dream, I was in a big tunnel, and I was on some sort of yellow earth-moving equipment or whatever. And further down the tunnel were boxes and missile parts, and those symbols they have for chemicals and the symbols they have for nuclear things. And so what I did is, when I woke up, I thought about it, and I pulled up further and further, and I got an idea of where it was. And there was Tehran in Iran, but it was north of there. It was like a big mountain. This was hidden deep in the mountain. And some months later, the NSA released documents verifying what I saw. Yay, NSA. Yay, Joe. I was very happy about this. It showed that this was not, I knew it was not just my imagination. And you must, with all these sorts of things, there's a danger with our work of slipping off into delusion. You have to find your own level of proof. If what we're doing and seeing is real, there should be some real effect in the real world. Whether it's healing, whether it's this sort of stuff. So try hard. It doesn't come easy. Now, later on in the piece, I was putting up my things and getting quite obsessed, like I have a tendency to do. And then I put something up about the American fleet and all these interesting things. And that's when I was talked to by people who are sort of official and deal with things that shouldn't be talked about. And it was advised I should stop talking about them because they were silly. And I said, if they're silly, what's the problem? And they said, you know what we're talking about, stop it. So I stopped it. But I'm still sort of doing this, and I'd like to encourage you to please try it. Because we don't know things unless we try. And I'd like to think of swarms of you out there in the world irritating people in authority and seeing things you shouldn't see, that they don't want us to see, that they're hidden things. And there's so much I don't truly understand. I don't know what to make of aliens. I don't know what to make of all sorts of things. I enjoy the fact, but if we can train ourselves to do practical things, to have a sense of where loved ones might be and how they are, or what your kids are up to, and also just all these sorts of things, it has practical value. So I'd like it very, very much if you could try these things. What have I forgotten to talk about, Jess? Anything?
Well, I've encouraged you when you've done those things to document it at the time that you felt them.
Yes.
Somewhere, say, like send yourself an email of what you
exactly
envisaged on the day that you did it,
yes.
so that when you get proof of it, you can see a time frame between the time you saw it till the time it actually eventuated in whether that's in public or media or your children say yes, I was.
Because you're my wife, there's no way in the world I could possibly do what you suggested at the time. But it was a great idea, and I later started doing such things. But I would encourage you, please try this, because there's more to all of this than we realise. Now, we'll talk again soon. I hope you're all well and happy, and blessings on all of you.